I love it, dude. Well, nice to have you here. Junkie,
Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Facebook Live. We're right here. LabCoatAgents. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to introduce my favorite people here on our webinar today. But I want to welcome, please let us know where you're from. I'm going to open up the chat. I would love to know where you guys are from. So please introduce yourself. And like Tristan always says, let us know where you're from. So I'm excited about that. Oh, look, Tristan, we've got from Vancouver, Canada.
Whoa.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's Andrew. That's Andrew.
Jacksonville. Wow, that's awesome. See, we've got some great people joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us. And, you know, I'm going to dive right into this. I want to introduce our, guys from Street Text, Troy and Logan. Welcome. Thank you for doing this for us. And, of course, Tristan, thank you for being here.
I'm just visiting.
You're just visiting. Yes, you're watching us.
Making sure that we behave, right?
Exactly.
Especially Logan.
Gotta watch out for me. So.
Anyway, so can you tell us a little bit about who you guys are? Because I've got a lot of questions that were asked when I was, talking about this webinar on our LabCoatAgents group. Tell us a little bit about Street Text and quickly tell us what you guys do for Street Text.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it away. First off, my name is Logan. I sold real estate for many, many years here locally in Kelowna, British Columbia. You know, just we're mentioning Vancouver. We're only stone's throw away, so to speak, a few hours away from there. Marketing background. Like I said, sold real estate for a long time. Worked, 6 days a week, 16-hour days, kind of like most other realtors that care about the industry, and decided to take a little bit of a detour in my career and help realtors as opposed to continuing to be one myself, so I could spend more time with the family and all that fun stuff. My role within Street Text is that of a coach. We're quote unquote a sales role, but that's not really what we do. We're here to coach people and train them and make sure that they understand how ads work and everything like that. And we try to facilitate making it easy to launch ads, gather leads, nurture them properly, and most importantly, again, train everybody as a community. We do one-on-one sessions, but our real meat and potatoes, so to speak, is putting everybody together as a collective, understanding that there's no one way to reach success. Everybody has their own methods, and just because somebody's doing something doesn't mean you have to replicate every step of their process in order for you to find success. So we like to find everybody that's winning, put them together on a weekly basis, very similar to what we see in the LabCoatAgents, of course, which is why this partnership's, been so successful, I think, for both companies. Just again, the ability to allow people to connect and see how others are winning and see how they can implement, some of those methods into their own follow-up process, and obviously impart on others what they're doing as well. So again, we just grow and gain momentum as a collective.
And I'm so excited to talk about that because we did discuss that yesterday in our Street Text Insider, which is a private group also just like LabCoatAgents. And we discussed that yesterday on our panel, on our mastermind, which I would love to share what we talked about as well. But Troy, take it away. Tell us, what you do for Street Text.
Well, I work as a coach as well, more on the success side, and making sure that people really understand how to use the product, how to, and then most importantly, like what to do, right? You get a lead that comes in. I mean, that's the easy part, right? That follow-up, that relationship building, that everything that happens after that is actually the harder part. A lot of people think,
it's part of the process, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I kind of do. I come actually more from a tech background, been involved in video game design and that sort of thing. And so it's kind of applying some of those principles into this is also kind of interesting in what you do with that. So that's kind of where I come from and what I do here.
Troy, he's being fairly modest. He actually helped a fairly small company grow into $1 billion industry. So
wait. What? Video game background?
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
What video game company?
A small one called Club Penguin that eventually got eaten up by Disney. So yeah.
Wow, dude, that's pretty awesome.
My son used to play that years ago.
Yeah, it's no longer exists anymore, but it was yeah.
What did you do?
A lot of kids did.
what did you do for Club Penguin?
I did video game design and then game production within that. So
nice. So then how does that translate into helping street text? What does that look like? What's your time spent doing there?
Where I'm shifting over is really into the product itself and taking a lot of like the learnings that and applying, you know, the tech and the methods of actually engagement with the product, and then taking that out into engagement even with the leads and drawing them in to create something that's a little bit more is going to be supportive of an agent and their business goals and their and what they want to do out there. So yeah.
Well, I forgot to mention earlier, and I apologize for this, we are being recorded and there is a replay that's going to be out there as well on our YouTube channel, guys. So, you know, if you can't make it and can't stay the whole 1 hour, we do have our replay that's going to be on our YouTube channel. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. So yes, let's dive right into it and talk a little bit more about, you know, the street text platform itself, right? Let's talk about once someone gets a lead, and this is all about, you know, what are the next steps for someone, you know, when they're looking at a Facebook ad and they look at they click on that form, they fill out that form, and now you get that lead. A lot of agents say, okay, I have a lead, now what do we do, right? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll simply start by, again, I get asked that question basically 25 times a day of, hey, I just got my first lead, what do I do?
Yes.
And if there were, the way I like to put it is, if there was a rubber stamp that I could just send them, or a template that said, okay, you got your lead, now you do this and you do this and you do this, 3 months later you cash your check. You know, businesses like ours wouldn't stay in business because nobody would need additional help. Everybody would just know what to do right away. But knowing what to do right away is a accumulation of a lot of different things. It's knowledge from a bunch of different places. It's knowledge of your market particularly. It's knowledge of technology, but it's also knowledge of yourself, right? If I tell you, hey, in order to be successful, if you want to follow what this other agent's doing, you got to go door knocking. You have to door knock to be successful. Well, that's not true. You know, door knocking certainly helps. You know, personally, I don't love it, but it's something I always done because it's worked really well for me. But if it's that one thing that I'm telling you, you have to do and you refuse to do it, well, you're actually not moving in the right direction. You would then need to supplement that particular activity with something similar that's going to get you to that same end goal. Something in terms of mailers, you have to have an effective strategy other places. Right. So again, the most important thing that you could do, in my opinion, is being part of a platform like LabCoatAgents, like Street Text, and learning again what other people are doing, how they're furthering and advancing their, you know, methodology, so to speak, to get to that communication. Yeah. And really, the first mindset shift that I try to help everybody undertake is that you're not in a transactional industry, you're in a relationship industry.
Yes. Yeah, and we talked about that yesterday. Like, I'm going to continue referring back to yesterday because those were a lot of aha points. And, you know, we talked about it as well, about what does it mean when you are talking about relationships, right? What does that word even mean, you know? And, you know, to dissect it and to dig a little deeper and to kind of understand where that is coming from is so important, especially as realtors. So, like, we have all these different kinds of relationships. When you're looking at a lead, you say, okay, how do I take care of this? Do I put it into nurture? Do I put it into, it's not about that. It's, you have to connect and resonate and find your style, right? And how do you find your style? There's, you know, it took me years to build that. I'm sure Tristan can agree to this, right? I mean, what is your style of business, right? And that takes time, and it's okay for that. And once you have that lead and you want to create that business relationship, what is next, right? And a lot of us need to know that. A lot of us need to understand that. And like we said in our title here that says, you know, let's get ready for 2020. What do you see? One thing that agents are really kind of steering away from when they don't see that conversion happening?
Oh boy. You know, I think this always comes back to, like, a lot of people really go in and they're so focused on closing the deal. Like, right. Always be closing is what we've heard from the past and that sort of thing. But it's about opening, right? It's about getting a conversation started, which is going to lead to that relationship. I'm going to post something here in the chat. And John here at the office loved it because it's a little bit of a formula. So conversation leads to relationship, which leads to a listing.
Yes.
But take those equal signs out of there, and a conversation is actually greater than a relationship, which is greater than the listing. A lot of people are going, hey, that listing is greater because that's what makes me the money. But you're never going to get there until you start with that conversation and build a relationship. You know, it comes in. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, wow, it's $1 million home. I can't believe they're just curious and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, but why would I trust you to sell my $1 million home?
Absolutely.
I don't know you yet. I don't so building that relationship is so key. And right now, I mean, some people, we're now in a season where some people are like, we'll notice a slowdown in all of that. So if you get a lead that comes in, yeah, they might be actually thinking 3-6 months out because they're starting to think about the new year, right? 2021. Yeah, I'm looking to sell in the new year. I'm thinking about doing that. They're not maybe necessarily wanting to do it right now because, well, we're heading into the holiday season, right? And I don't want to do that. So if you get those leads that come in the new year, how are you going to do business with them? It's going to be over the next couple of months, building that relationship.
Right.
So when they are ready, when they're going, hey, yeah, let's do this. It's springtime. It's time to get into a new home, that sort of thing. They're going, oh, there's Janky. She keeps reaching out to me and she just seems to want to serve me. She's giving me great information. I really like her. Yeah, I'm going to give her a call. Yeah. Right.
And I can attest to that because I've had all these leads that I've been talking about, and I'm a paper person. Sorry about that, but I am a paper person. But all the conversions that we've done together with Street Text, I think it's not about, like you said, it's not about, just having that conversation now and saying, okay, well, they're not interested right now, so let me just put them on the side. No, I think nurturing is a big part of it, and that's what creates that momentum, right? And we have to start now in order to, and I always say 30, 60, 90 in my Facebook Lives. I think that is so important as well. You have to start today in order to see what kind of business will roll in the next 90 days. What are you doing today, now, this moment? And when you look at the Street Text and you look at these leads coming in, you got to do something about it, right? You got to create that momentum. You got to create that nurture. You got to put them somewhere, even if they're not looking now. Tell us a little bit about what kind of systems you have in place for something like that.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, I want to go back just one quick sec to the acronym Troy used there, the good old ABC, right? I look at that a little different in that I look at it more as always be consistent. You need to have consistency and really when you're talking systems and everything like that, setting up an appropriate pipeline, setting up the appropriate, walking path, so to speak, that you're taking consistently, and you only make changes on a needs by needs basis. If you've been doing the same thing for 3 months and you haven't been able to spark a conversation, it's time to reevaluate what your systems are and reevaluate what you're doing. If you set up your systems today and you don't close a deal tomorrow, is it time to blow everything up? Absolutely not. And that's something that we see all the time is people tend to, panic might not be the right word, but, you look at somebody like Janky and say, okay, well, she's absolutely crushing it on social media. I'm just going to do everything that she's doing. And I expect, I'm going to start closing deals tomorrow. Well, that's not how it works. You're not generating your deals. Today's leads aren't tomorrow's transactions. Mm-hmm. Today's leads are 3 months, 6 months, 12 months away.
Exactly.
Right? You're building a database. And I think that when in talking about systems, I've got a number of systems that I believe in, platforms that connect together well, and a flow that just works, and the appropriate touches at the right time, all those things. But again, it's so important that you find that one that works for you. And again, there is no one perfect system. Now, just talking in terms of a, step-by-step guide that works well for me, I would rather a client who doesn't need to sell tomorrow, a client who needs to sell, maybe they're going to sell a year or two away, but they're ready to engage in dialogue with me tomorrow. That's the client I want, as opposed to the client who needs to sell tomorrow, but has zero willingness to start a conversation with me. How helpful is that? Right? I'm going to get that lead. They need to sell within a week. Great. I'm going to fire off a CMA without ever speaking to them. Well, their nephew who just got into real estate now gets a listing and probably is going to price the home inaccurately based on a CMA that I, randomly generated without having any dialogue with them.
Right.
Or they go FSBO. There's so many ways that you can kind of steer people the wrong direction. And I personally believe that setting up an autoresponder that includes any idea of value, pricing, I just don't see that heading in the right direction, because their goal is not only just to know what their home is worth. Their goal is oftentimes to figure out what they can afford in the market. In order to figure out what they can afford, they need to know what their current assets are valued at, right? That may be the reason for it. Maybe they're looking to refinance. I don't even really care what the reason for their original submission was. What I'm looking at that as is an opportunity to talk to somebody, a homeowner, right? Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they'll never sell their home. But if I can get in dialogue with them and start a constructive conversation and prove to them that I'm a valuable resource who truly cares about them, even if I never get their sale, how many referrals am I going to get from that?
Right. And there's something about what I tell my team every morning when we have our 10-minute huddle. I tell them, how many conversations are you going to create today versus how many leads are you converting today, right? I think that's a big difference. How many conversations are you going to have today? How many relationships are you looking forward to building, right? I think those are the key questions to ask. Whether it's a street text lead or, a Facebook lead, or, what are you doing from A to B to C? What is your process like, right? Tristan, I see you making those faces. Talk to us. I can't hear you.
I think the process is probably the most important thing that we all miss. That's what I love about Logan and Troy and Marcus and everybody else there, which is when they help you create these ads that, first of all, they work. When they help you create these ads, they're also helping you along with the process. Like, here's what you text. Here's what you should do with video. Here's examples of things you should be doing on video with a CMA. Here's what you should do if you only get an email address, right? Mm-hmm. So they throw in a lot of things that help you with that process that we forget. We think that we're just making one call, or if we get an incomplete lead, that's it. We're like, oh, okay, next, right?
Yeah. I agree with that too. Go ahead. Logan?
Think of how easy of a transition this is. Let's say, for instance, you've been using BombBomb or Dub or Vimeo or Loom or any of those other video platforms. You've been embedding, and at this point, I'm not telling you that you should do this. I'm assuming everybody's already done this. So we'll just move beyond you need video in your autoresponder, because I think everybody realizes that if you don't, you're sunk, right? This is something that 2018 you should have been adding video, and if you're still behind that ball, get video as an introduction in your autoresponder. Otherwise, you are way behind the 8 ball. You're not even playing pool.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah. Now, moving on from that, let's say, for instance, you've got a video, it's getting opened, but you're not getting responses still. What's the method there, right? Consider what you're asking people. Really start to look at, what is your end goal? Is your end goal to be able to provide them a proper CMA? Or is your goal to spark a conversation with this individual so you can lead to a relationship? To me, that's your goal. So maybe consider, instead of asking, tell me about your home structurally, what square footage, bed count, bath count, is your basement finished, renovations, all these things that might help you in a value report fair, but are less enticing to answer. They're less exciting on the other person's side, and questions they've been asked time after time after time, anytime they've ever tried to get this value. For me, I want to know why they bought that home, why they want to sell it. And, I want to dig for those pain points without coming off as that cheesy used car salesperson, obviously. Right. So I consider two very important questions, as opposed to these other, tell me about your home structurally. Tell me about how your home makes you feel, right? And be very careful to not get cheesy with that line of questioning, of course. But the way that it works for me has always been, tell me your favorite feature of your home currently. And if you could change any one thing, what would it be? Right. Do either of those questions help me in a value report? Not at all. But both of them are much more engaging questions. They feel like more personal. Somebody actually cares. And it leads me to that same end goal. The answer I get back all the time, or used to get back all the time, was something to the nature of, You know, I love my big backyard where we've been able to host family functions for the last 20 years. Okay, I now know I have somebody more in my key demographic. I have somebody a little bit older, which is good. I have somebody who's been able to host family functions, which is still going to be important for them. You know, and then if my second question ties in, which I'm hoping it does, which typically when that response was given, I also get, if I could change any one thing, what would it be? I wish my home didn't have so many stairs. Right? I put those things together. Now I can understand, okay, I'm looking at an upside or an upgrade downsize, probably empty nesters, and I know the items of importance to them. And now I know what I'm going to take and market to the other individuals, right? I'm going to use those features to market this to somebody else. And again, what I'm going to say to them is, well, it sounds like you're looking for X, Y, and Z. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, in order to help you find that, we need to set a budget. In order to set a budget properly, I need to value your current assets. Why don't we do this? Why don't I come over, have a quick peek around your property, and maybe we'll make a decision together as to whether or not it's time to start looking at putting this home on the market or not. It's not, I just want to come sell this home. Commission breath, commission breath, commission breath, right? It's
you're coming full circle.
And it's the exact same, I end up at that same goal without creating a bunch of work for myself, without doing a paper CMA, without doing anything other than I want to talk to you to figure out why you submitted this information. Why are you asking for this? Because it's not just that you want some guesstimate of value. You're looking for something, and you're not ready to tell me that yet. So I'm going to ask the right questions in order to get into that direction.
And I think another question to also, and that's fantastic what I try to write down as much as I could, because you can always improve, right? No matter how good you may think you are, and I always say this, learning based, keep your mindset. That's another thing I want to talk about, mindset, right? We talked about this, and I want to kind of, look into, talk about that too. Mindset, like what is your mindset behind this? And what are you doing in order to be ready to make that call and say, you know what, I'm just trying to call in and check, see how they're doing. Number one, how are you doing? And what is motivating you? Why, not to directly say, why did you fill out the form? They're going to get turned off. Of course, they're going to hang up saying, I don't need to talk to you. I don't know who you are. But coming up with a question like, what motivated you to do this, right? And what is your biggest motivation to sell your home, or where do you see yourself moving to? What neighborhood are you looking into? I've asked those key questions, getting them mentally to that place right away instead of where they are right now. It's a mental change for them as well. And another thing also, right, and I think Troy would agree with me on this one, is that, and even Logan, I think another thing is your mindset shift. Like, what are you doing mentally? Because when you have affirmations. That's one thing I say every morning with our team. We do affirmations. Once we do the affirmations, we think it, we feel it, we act on it, right? So what are your steps before you're making your calls? Because of course, we're going to get 10 no's, 100 no's before we get a yes. But what is it that you're doing behind the scenes to be prepared to make these calls? For example, looking into street text and seeing address only, does that discourage somebody? No, in fact, it should motivate you to say, okay, what can I do? What is my system? What is my process when I get an address only? When I do a buyer campaign, don't think, oh, they're buyers, they're a dime a dozen, blah, blah, blah. Don't think of that in such a way. Think of it as, okay, it's a buyer. They might need to sell in order to buy, right? So talk to us a little bit about those kind of campaigns. I know I talk about, the niche market, like find out what the niche is in your market and then do the ad campaign accordingly. What is your recommendation on the buyer campaign ads as well? Because I know Street Text does that fantastically.
Troy, if you want to unpack on the buyers, I just wanted to quickly add, something incredibly important in terms of mindset, again, is not putting your own thoughts or bias to what somebody else's submission was. They put in an address only. Well, they weren't actually serious. Otherwise, they would have given me the information. Oh, they put just curious on the thing when they could fill in. They must be just curious. Oh, they put in immediately. Woohoo, I'm going to sell this home tomorrow. You never, ever, ever put your own biased thoughts into somebody else's reason for submitting their information. You do not know, period, until you speak to them in person, on the phone, somehow an actual conversation with that individual. Never in a million years will you ever be able to decide for that individual the purpose for them submitted their information. So don't assume that you can.
Exactly. Totally agree.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Buyers. So, well, Jenk, you're having some good success with buyers,
Massive success.
which is great. I love it. Right. I don't think we focus on the buyer side as much as we should. You know, a lot of people, I just want to get listings. Buyers are all at work and that sort of thing. But I think buyers can be a lot of fun.
Right. And let me pitch into that really quickly.
Yeah.
We just converted 15, Tristan, you have to hear this one. 15 buyers we converted 15 buyers in the past 1 month. 1 month. 15 buyer leads we converted. Out of that, 4 are ready to sell. And we are approving 12 of them right now. Okay. So just
amazing.
A little bit of aha for everyone out there. Do not bash the fact that they're buyer leads because, and Troy, sorry for interrupting you, but I have to share that aha because, you know, when you look at buyer campaign, you're saying, all right, they're only buyers. No. They possibly might have something to sell, right? So that's why I wanted to kind of have you talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, yeah, and that's, I mean, the one ad that we have, it's a buyer to seller conversion, right? Because, I mean, it's on the flip side, if they're looking to purchase, they're probably also looking to sell their current home so they can purchase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's a little bit of that exploratory and building that relationship and getting that conversation started because you're not going to discover that unless you start getting a conversation started and start doing that discovery and start moving from there. One of the things too with the buyers, we always recommend one of our ad templates on the buyer side allows you to put in the neighborhood. So you're always, you know, you're looking to attract people that want to move into that neighborhood, for instance. But attaching also an amenity to that neighborhood is really good because now you're attracting people that are probably actively looking. You know, if it's, would you like a list of homes in Kelowna with a pool under $799? Well, yeah, I would love to have a pool, right? I'm probably actively looking, but we like to take it even a step further and advertise a listing because that almost takes that all the way to like the extreme where you're like, you have a specific listing. It actually has very specific amenities, right? Bedrooms, whatever, all sorts of stuff that's in there. If somebody's actively looking and they're attracted to that and then leave their information, I love this part, is it really makes that conversation easy.
Right.
Right? What is it that you loved about this particular listing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that it had 4 bedrooms because we'd like to have we've got 3 kids and we'd also like to have a guest room always available, right? Or whatever it is. Like we start getting what their motivations are. There's something about that listing that piqued their interest and we can really have a nice conversation about it. Just, you know, what did you like? You know, right. Maybe they're like, oh, I didn't really like it, but I was kind of interested anyway, right? You never know where it's going to go, but that's kind of, it works really, really well as far as drawing those people in. And again, it's about that conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at those, the ad that Troy is describing here, I look at it very much like an open house. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't have a listing right now. A lot of people have, you know, taken we'll call it a sabbatical from selling homes, and now they're starting to really get back in and realize that, hey, well, I stopped. The other people around me didn't necessarily stop during this little slowdown, whatever you want to call it. The market in almost every area that we're in has remained, you know, doing what we would have hoped it was going to do. Really, right? Seller's market almost everywhere. But again, it's kind of that, it's that open house mentality where in my own career, I've personally hosted a few hundred, if not 1,000 or more open houses. And I can't honestly tell you that I've ever sold the open house to somebody who visited the open house. I've sold a plethora of homes to people visiting that open house that it just didn't have that one item. So again, exactly what Troy's saying is that it opens up that conversation to say, what attracted you to this property, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what was it that is going to detract you from potentially putting in an offer? Is it simply the time isn't right? Or was this one a little bit more pricey than you were anticipating? Was it not the right neighborhood? Did it have too big of a pool, not a pool at all, a hot tub? What was it that you liked and didn't like? Because now as your, you know, buying representative, which I'm going to kind of just become now, I'd like to help you find what that is. So you it's not a bait and switch by any stretch because you're putting an actual active listing out there, but realizing that it's just to kind of dangle the bait and not every single person that clicks on that we'll be ready to offer on that particular property. But now, again, you're in discovery mode. Let's figure out what you're truly looking for, and I'd love to be the one to help you find it.
Yeah. I think selling yourself, selling your services at a high level, doing split tests that we do. And this is what I love about Street Text, Tristan. I have to say this, the different kind of campaigns, different kind of ads you have, not campaigns, ads that you have. And you see in the back end, you know, what kind of money are you spending and what is giving you the biggest buck for your ad, right? I mean, you actually get to see that in the back end, and that's what I love. So you can now look at an ad and say, okay, this is working, this is not working, let's pause on this. Take us into the background of that. You know, tell us a little bit more about that. You know, especially split tests. Some of them didn't work for us, but like I said, the buyer campaign works amazing for us. So we kept that going.
While you're showing that, or while you're talking about what Junkie is saying, could one of you show the ads too, so people can understand what that looks like?
Yeah, Troy, bring up on your screen there.
Yeah, Janky, I'll just use your account if that's all right.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Logan, while I get that up here.
While Troy's getting started, I'd say there's two things in regards to data that's incredibly important. First, obviously, is your individual coach that will be assigned to you are, you know, not to toot our own horns or anything, but just based on, you know, osmosis, if nothing else, the fact that we have to look at statistical analysis for, you know, every market basically in North America on a daily basis to understand, okay, in, you know, the Malibu area where median price point is, my expectations in terms of cost per click, cost per lead, cost per email are in a particular realm. So if Tristan's ads are running poorly, I'll be able to know that right quick that I think he could do better. Or if they're doing great and he's wondering, maybe I should turn this ad off, what's going on? You know, any of our coaches can quickly and easily help you identify what metrics you should be shooting for. And a lot of that, again, is, you know, individual experience, but we rely in a big way on big data. We allow for and make sure that every time you click and build an ad from any one of our templates, your ad's specific performance feeds into the big data that everybody can then see. So for instance, that's kind of what led us to the necessity of recommending an amenity, as Troy was mentioning, on our buyer's ads, or going into a property listing to find them, because one thing that we had noticed on the standard buyer's ad, which is typically something like be the first to receive a list of homes in Cologne to under $1 million, right? One thing that we noticed was the click to contact ratio was atrociously low. It always hovered around 11%. Right? Meaning that 11% of every click you've paid for leaves some form of information. It's a numbers game, and that's never going to work, in my opinion. So that started getting us to think, why is that happening and how can we fix that? So we started thinking, okay, the people who are clicking on this are not in market. They simply are, who doesn't want a list of homes in their area at a particular price? Let's consider adding some kind of specific amenity to filter, and let's see if that works. All of a sudden, the people running the exact same templated ad with that subtle little adjustment, we had noticed an improvement in the cost per click, an improvement in the conversations. We then, again, we thought, okay, how do we improve this even more? How do we make this more specific? People, you know, run their own listings all the time. Let's see, you know, connected to an appropriate follow-up structure, how much better that is. We're at a 98% click to contact ratio on those ads right now. It's lunacy. You know, the average phone number submission, I think we'll probably have it on there. I think it was around $2 or $3 or something like that for every phone number submitted on that one. So again, it's following big data. It's allowing, you know, other people's mistakes to be something that you're learning from without you having to make those same mistakes.
Right.
That's incredibly important.
And I think another thing to also mention, Logan, would be one ad can work for you in your area, but not the same ad can work in another area. And I'm sure Troy will show us that. But find out what works in your area. What I mean by that is find out what what buyers are looking for, what sellers have in their homes that buyers really want. We're doing like a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom downstairs because that's a big thing here. People want a bedroom and a bathroom downstairs for elderly parents, for office, whatever. And that ad has gotten us a lot of conversations going. So find out what is it that niche that works in your area too.
Yeah, and I would say one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they say, hey, I want to do that property listing ad, but I don't have any listings. I'm going to go find one. I say, great. They go and find a $3 million listing. You know, it's been on the market for 600 days or something like that. It's, you know, you want to find something more in line with what you're looking. If you don't know something specific, shoot for the median, shoot for the middle of the market, something that you know has the biggest viewership, so to speak. There's the majority, there's a reason it's the median.
Right.
Right. So consider adding something that is more in that middle ground, something that is more appropriate to everybody. I think that's also an important topic for sure. So one bed, one bath, you know, it's not necessarily what I'm looking for at this stage of my life, I'll tell you that, but.
Exactly. And you know what? 70% or 60% of the people that are coming there are not necessarily looking for that. You know, they're not necessarily, but they clicked on that. Why did they click on it, right? I mean, that's the science behind it. And now how do you create a science within yourself to take the next steps?
Exactly.
Right.
You got anything for us, Troy?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to share my screen here. I'll just show, we're kind of like talking about the ads and the metrics behind them. And we make that really, really easy to understand. We pull that from Facebook, display it here for you. So this is the ad, the buyer ad that Janky's running. So we display, you know, what's your cost per click? What's your average cost per lead? What's your average cost per email? You know, what's your total ad spend on that, right? So, and even looking at yours right now, Janky, I would probably consider doing another test and finding an ad, because your ad performance over the last 7 days is actually kind of dwindled a little bit for you. So
slow down.
Yeah, it's slowed down here. So
you have a cost per click of $5.24, which means theoretically you could max get one, and if Facebook's being, you know, generous, 2 clicks in a day, knowing it's a numbers game. Again, even though the results on this have been good, and my assumption is you have a lot of good interactions, comments, and likes and shares, given how long this one's been running. What I would recommend you do on this one, Janky, is simply using our Relaunch Ad Feature, which allows you to take an existing ad and all its current engagement, any likes, shares, comments, everything that Facebook sees as positive social engagement, and relaunch it as if you're doing a brand new ad, but it'll carry forward with that previous engagement. So that you have an opportunity for it to test better. Because again, we always talk about the first 500 people in 24 hours, the first 24 hours being by far the most important thing you could possibly ever focus on. So go back, launch that exact same ad using the reuse ad feature, and hopefully it tests a little bit better initially, and you'll end up getting those similar results in terms of cost per email, cost per lead. But if your cost per click is more appropriate in and around that $2 mark, now theoretically you're getting 5 to 6 clicks a day, which again, theoretically speaking, of course, should lower your actual incoming lead cost even further. So that would be what I would recommend on that.
See, I just learned something, Tristan. This is amazing. Look, like you are learning every single day. Audience, listen up. I'm telling you, with LabCoat, with our group, I don't mean to brag, but I have to put this in. LabCoatAgents, you know, once you join this group, obviously you learn. We're learning so much from Street Text right now.
Jackie, that's it. There's a great question for you though from Sydney, just so that people can understand your investment in your business here. So she's asking, are you paying $1,400 for the month or for the week? How does this look?
I think for the cost, actually the entire ad, right? I mean, it's from the time the ad has started. I don't know when that was, Troy. Can you check?
Look it up here. Yeah, just
yeah.
That was the lifetime of it.
Lifetime of the lifetime of the ad, not every month. No.
And also, one thing I wanted to mention is Janky's also running multiple ads, which is something I would typically discourage right from the get-go. We'd launch, you know, a 3-ad split test, and we'd get things going. And you have to understand that, again, Janky didn't start yesterday and just say, hey, I have an issue with low leads. I'm just going to throw money at this problem and hope it goes away. Not how this works, right? You start small, and as with any small business you're trying to grow, you have to nurture your business. So again, if you just take all of your earnings, all of your personal, you know, income, and invest every penny, well, you're going to be very short-lived. You're not going to grow. In my opinion, you start small, and once you start, you know, do all the right things. You add the little pieces and parts that you need for your business to succeed, of course, but you need to grow that business. So as Janky's done, you know, 15 buyer qualified in a month alone or whatever it might be, and 400, you know, recently closed. Okay, Well, that's income. I can take 30% of that income and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to build another ad, or maybe I'll put a little bit more money behind my ads that are currently working well. Maybe I'm going to add that bomb tool to see if I can make this even better. But again, you don't just come and throw down a lot of cash and get everything at once.
Absolutely.
You won't ever be able to set it up properly. It's not about having every system and every tool out there. It's about using them properly.
Right.
Right?
Don't run after all the shiny objects that are out there. Get one, stick to one, and do split tests and try to make it work for you, because it will work as long as you want to work it, right? I mean, I think that is very important to know. And like I said, I just learned that I can use that reuse feature ad, which I'm going to jump on right after this and get to work on that one for sure.
Yeah, and for anybody wondering, just in terms of investments, I'll quickly break something down for you that I help people think long-term again, because again, you're not trying to fix a 3-month problem here. You're trying to solve a year-round lead generation issue so that, again, you can be ABC, right? Always be consistent, right? So that's kind of the way I look at this is if you were to say, sign up for our entire year package, we have 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But if you were to do the entire 12-month street text sign up, you're looking at 1920, either, Canadian dollars if you're in Canada, or USD in the States. Now, combine that with the fact that most of our users are at a $9 daily ad limit and then 1 ad a day. Let's just say that you're at 1 ad a day at $9 a day and you hit that max budget for 365 days, you'd be right in around $52.50, right? So in most markets, that's half a deal. In even the lower priced areas, that's still that's slightly less than 1 full deal. So the idea is, realistically not being able to close one either buyer or seller's transaction in a 12-month period. I mean, we've obviously failed you, but you've also failed yourself if that were the case, right? So that's kind of the idea I look at this as, is you can come into it with high expectations, and if you sign up for the year and you do 1 ad at $9 a day, the max you're going to spend is $52.50.
Well, and that's so true, because again, I'm a testimony of that, is that we converted and closed 3 of them. We're pending on 2 of them right now, just to see the return of investment is 1,000% right there. I mean, more than that. So I think let's go right back to how did we take it from lead to conversions to, relationships, and then to the list, to the buy side, or whatever side we had on that particular lead, so to speak, right? I hate to call them leads, because again, there's the relationship that we're trying to build here and nurture, right? Because that's always going to lead you to the next, referral from that particular relationship, right? Yeah.
There's a company out there, they're called Ask Video, and I love how they refer to their leads. They call them human. And every time you get somebody responds, they go, "Oh, humans responded to you," and I'm like, I love that. Instead of a lead, I'm like, oh yeah, they're a regular human, right? So,
dude, that is so good. I love that. Yeah. I mean, maybe we can even take that deeper and start changing that so our psychology changes, because I would love to take it more into the realm of a relationship. Like, oh, the relationships responded, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I looked at it as, you have a new opportunity. I've had that similar mindset, but it's like there's a new opportunity ahead, and it's not necessarily exactly that, a lead. That individual may not be the one who you end up closing, but if you treat them the right way, professionally, appropriately, with help, there's a good opportunity that's going to turn into something. And I mean, I look at what we do very similar to what I used to do as a real estate agent, right? We offer here at Street Text a free trial. I'm going to help somebody for at minimum 7 days. I'm going to teach them hopefully all sorts of things they didn't know before. I'm going to hopefully be able to take what they're already doing and help them perfect that process with absolutely no guarantee that they're ever going to sign up with my company, right? I did the same thing constantly on the real estate end with my free home valuations, right?
Right.
A lot of the people, quite honestly, most of the people I actually showed up their home and did a valuation ended up signing with me eventually. But if somebody were to tell me, you know what, Logan, we're not actually quite ready to sell our home yet, but we really want to know what it's actually worth right now. We've done Zillow, we've done this, but we really want to know where we're at. My job isn't to say, I'll tell you what, call me in 6 months when you're more ready. How's that going to go? I'm not getting that call. Whereas my response should be, and always was, well, tell you what, it sounds like you're not ready to sell. That's perfectly fine. We'll leave the contract in the car, but I would like to come do a walkthrough of your home. Let's get a baseline as to what your home's worth now. I'm going to suggest some things to you to help you improve. Maybe, renovating your basement isn't the best place to spend your money because it's already, a finished basement and you don't need to worry about adding that square footage. But improving this kitchen, improving your ensuite, the areas that I know are truly going to add true value, right? Those are the things that I can then help them, get their head around and get prepared. And then I would always set a predetermined check-in point. They told me they're not ready for at least a year. Well, I'm definitely want to get back in front of them within 6 months. Mm-hmm. How does it sound? Exactly. You're going to do some renovations. You can always call me and ask questions, but why don't we just do this? Why don't I swing back in, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever you feel comfortable with, and have a quick look and see those improvements you've made, and I'll see how much value you've added, and we'll, rediscuss the course of action here.
Exactly. We have a few questions that have just come in. Sydney Taylor has asked, how long has John Key been doing street text? I have no idea. I think it's only a couple of months. I think since May, you guys, I don't know. I have no idea.
I'll grab
April. Was it April?
You've been here April. Yeah.
April. There we go. April. And then another one from Emma Stara. I'm in Canada, Toronto area. Do you guys have a coach experience with GTA area?
All of us are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, again, we don't deal with any one jurisdiction alone. We're all over North America. And again, yeah, I mean, I can usually, if you tell me this is where I am, this is my neighborhood, my state, my city, I can usually tell you median price pretty much anywhere. And I would say Troy, Ira, and Marcus would be able to do the same. And again, it's largely based on the fact that this is what we do. We do this all day long, every single day.
And you know what? They're awesome guys because they do respond to, you guys also have ad tweet classes, and you also have those custom classes, so you can sign up, you can register for that, and they're there to help you, and love it. We have some great questions coming in, so keep them coming in, you guys. We'd love to answer. We've got about 10 more minutes. So another question from Joe Timko, sorry. Do you guys work with broker investors to help them find distressed properties for themselves and their clients?
I'll take that one. I help people take I don't want to call it a half-formed thought necessarily, but a lot of times people say, there's an angle that I'm approaching. I'm not sure quite what my call to action is going to be, but I run the custom ads class and I relish the opportunity to come up with and help people come up with what it needs to be. So a lot of times people say exactly that. Well, this is my angle, and obviously my goal is to help them formulate a proper ad copy that goes along with an appropriate image type to get them to the type of response they're looking for. So do we have templates pre-created for that? No. However, again, that's kind of what we're trying to do right now, is starting to move into other areas, other industries, sure, but most importantly, other avenues of real estate, and having people, again, bring their thoughts, their ideas. We can then kind of shape something, put something out there, and when it tests well, then we can turn around and start building those into templates.
Awesome. There's another question from Joe. Can I target Facebook with the list of potential distressed property owners that I generate?
Yep. You can do, in a sense, that would be basically retargeting. If you already have the list of individuals, any ad that you create for whatever reason, you can always get into Facebook's backend on the ads manager side and upload a CSV file or whatever your file type is into the preferred audience selector, and it will really follow those individuals around. I would suggest that's probably better to use as a retargeting ad. So instead of saying a $9 per day sponsored ad, I would probably create it as a much lower cost per day, and then just have a very small list of individuals that are being followed around by your moving billboard.
Awesome. Another question from Amanda Smith. She says, could video ask be integrated into street text autoresponder? That's a good one.
That's a good one. It's actually something I'm playing around with, and I think actually more importantly, not necessarily in the autoresponder, but actually on the landing page. Nice. Where you could actually at that point get a conversation started. What Video Ask does, it's a really cool service, but it's something we're kind of messing around with to see how we could potentially integrate that way in a way that actually works really, really well.
Uh-huh.
But certainly in your autoresponders, either bomb or dub is what we'd highly recommend, because
Right.
that is where you can get, you know, right in front of them and they go, oh, that's Logan. Oh, that's Troy. Oh, that's Jackie. It's a real person behind all of this. It's not just this like text-based sort of thing. And there's so much you can convey just in your body language and your tonality that you can come across. And Logan says, I love how you say this. You're like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
But I'd rather them find that out early than we're going back and forth. And then we finally meet and they're like, oh, I don't really like this Troy guy. Right. So maybe we discover that in the very, you know, there's something about me that you don't like. That's totally fine. It's just not going to work if this relationship doesn't get built that way. But certainly, absolutely, video in your autoresponder, short and sweet. I think I just saw McKinney just says, how long should videos be? Really short, well under a minute.
Right.
Because when somebody sees, like, everybody has the attention span of a goldfish these days, right? So when you see like, oh, play this like 30-second long video, they're like, I don't have 30. It's crazy. Like people are like, I don't have 30 seconds today.
Yeah. And the
Right?
there's another one that I've learned also right here, again, right here on LabCoat. We had a webinar last week, Hook Point, right, Tristan? And they were saying three seconds. You have 3 seconds. When someone is scrolling, they have, you know, the mind has 3 seconds to decide whether they want to stay or go, you know? So I think it's very important, especially with video, you pass the message. What is your opening statement at that point? What are you trying to achieve here? And what are you trying to say and deliver is going to be important when you're doing videos, right?
Yeah.
Another question coming in, Marjorie Smith, yes, this is going to be recorded. It's going to be in our YouTube channel as well. It'll be uploaded later this afternoon. Andrew Cosgrove said, in past experiences, I've had lead funnel companies recommend we focus on buyer funnels. How successful are seller funnels?
I would love to take that one. The day I got into real estate, the typical verbiage was imparted on me by my broker, as always. Speed to lead, speed to lead, speed to lead, list to last, control the inventory, yada, yada, yada. The hardest thing to do, I would say, is to come up with a consistently performing, effective seller's ad, because buyers are so much more abundant. Because again, a home seller, there's one key qualification. You have to own a home. Mm-hmm. Home buyer, you could be a lifelong renter. So there's considerably more first-time buyers and people out there than there are homeowners. It's just the way it is. And people who are looking to buy a property, they're looking to look for things, right? Not just investigating how much their home's worth. They're looking for something. And I'll tell you, I'm looking at buying another home right now, and it's exhilarating. It's fun. You know, the guy I'm dealing with sends me a new property list every single day, and I'm clicking through. It's a fun experience. So generating buyer leads, and I don't mean quality buyer leads, just buyer leads in general, is so much easier to do. So that's why a lot of companies that, you know, provide leads would want to steer you in that direction, because then it looks like I'm doing my job better, right? Sellers are, I would say, a little bit harder of an endeavor, but that has been our primary focus since inception. We started in 2014, and all we've done is sellers up until 2 years ago, when we were getting asked from our existing clients, when can we start doing buyers as well? I'm using this other system. I'm using this as well. I don't want to have to pay for 2 systems. They don't do sellers. You guys don't do buyers. We're like, let's do buyers. So we started taking what we had learned on the sell side and you know, employing that onto the buy side as well. And sure enough, we've caught right up on the buy side, because that wasn't that difficult. But it's the years and years and years and years and years of, again, big data and rigorous testing, and the ability to say, hey, I'm going to run this seller's ad. It didn't work, or it worked. Now I can take the information we've gathered and not just learn from one ad. We're learning from thousands of ads, right? So if you come and join with us, even if you say my key focus is buyers, I'm going to try my hardest to convince you to start running a seller's ad as well, and really test the reason Street Text was established. And that was, again, realtors trying to do something slightly different and understanding there's something missing in the market, where if you're looking at sellers, you're always buying leads.
Right.
And that's not, in my opinion, overly scalable. Whereas when you can start generating your own and really managing and seeing every single dollar that's being spent, manage your portfolio, so to speak, manage things so much more effectively. And yeah, I mean, again, there's no reason to ever stop working with buyers. But in my opinion, you know, I again, not to make this all about me, I got to an 80-20% split in my career, 80% sellers to 20% buyers. And I still, my 20% buyer pool easily took up 80% of my time.
Right.
Every single month it was, I'd look at where my time was being spent. And again, I had considerably more listings than I ever did showings, you know, and I still had more time spent with those buyers at the end of the day.
Let me ask you this, Logan and Troy. Once someone signs up, right? They get their 7-day free trial that you're offering. Thank you so much for that. Of course, right here exclusively on LabCoatAgents. But let me ask you this also: when you do that, and they have questions about the ad, how can they reach out to you guys? What is the best way for them to connect with you?
I'll take that. So when you sign up, you're going to get contacted by your coach right away. You're going to get email, text message. There's also lots of other communication from Street Text. So we'll often say, if you don't know who your coach is, just reach out to any communication that you receive from Street Text. But each and every person is assigned a coach, and you can connect with your coach. We'll help you to initially get your ads up and running, kind of show you how that works, run what we call the split test in order to find a good, effective ad on Facebook, because it's not about just running an ad. It's also about maximizing your ad spend on there, which is an important piece. So, and then there's lots of other support. We have a lot of workshops throughout the week. You know, Logan's custom ad class he's mentioning there. We have a conversion class that Marcus teaches. He's really pumped up about just that conversion side of things. And, you know, Janky, as you know, the mastermind where we get together as a community and kind of discuss and learn from each other. And that's kind of a big part of what we have to offer. And we always recognize this, even doing these webinars like this, we really want you to first off experience what Street Text is, but experience that community that we have and that culture that we're kind of building around. And I can guarantee you, whether or not you find that this is a fit for you, you're still going to take away something that's probably going to improve your business.
Right, exactly.
And that's what's important to us.
2 more questions, because we're almost done. Someone anonymously said, I'm a new realtor. Do I advertise someone else's home to get a potential buyer?
Yeah, I'll take that one. There's 2 sides to that. First and foremost, absolutely. Look at it like an open house. Before I ever got my first listing, I had hosted a dozen, if not more, open houses that were not mine at all. And I started working and, you know, cutting my teeth, so to speak, on the buy side. So absolutely, again, don't shoot for the moon. Don't take a bajillion-dollar listing because it's the nicest thing on the market. Look for something in the median. Look for something kind of like Janky had done, where that 1 bed, 1 bath. Figure out what people are, especially, think of it this way, especially as a newer agent. Think of that type of property somebody's most likely going to want to deal with you for. If it's a $5 million property and you've never helped anybody buy or sell anything before, how's that conversation going to go with that multi-million-dollar agent or client? If you've never dealt with somebody in that multi-million-dollar bracket, you'll realize really quick it's a different experience than you would have otherwise expected or been told, right? You're probably really going to want to focus on first-time buyers. So look at that price category. What does that entail? And really set yourself up for success so that you're not talking to people, outside your weight class, we'll call it. I did that myself. I made that mistake. Before I had anything under my belt, I had my father-in-law, one of his best friends who owns, along with him, a hotel chain. And they were looking at properties that were way outside of my qualifications, and it didn't go very well, right? So really consider, what are you comfortable doing? And then try to attract people that are going to kind of fit that.
Awesome.
Well, Logan, don't ever, for real estate agents listening in on that, don't ever think that you can't partner up with somebody that's already where you want to be.
Right.
100%. I should have made that distinction, because I think honestly that is one of the most important things, especially as a newer agent looking to list. I think you need to move into the listing side right away. And I get a lot of people who are, I would say scared isn't the right word, but a little bit cautious in terms of taking that leap. there's nothing more valuable than taking somebody along with you that you trust, that can show you the ropes. Because again, you can sit in a boardroom and do all the training and role playing ever. You get asked that one particular question at the dinner table and you go, I don't know that answer. There's nothing more comforting than to be able to look next to you and see somebody who's been in the trenches for years answer that, and now you've just learned what the answer to that question is. You'll never be able to be perfectly prepared. Bring somebody along, exactly like Tristan said. That's such valuable information.
Exactly. There we go. Well, thank you guys. It's always such a pleasure to talk to someone from Street Text. I really, really appreciate you guys bringing so much to us in our business, right, Tristan? And thank you so much. And that's a wrap.
Logan, one quick question before we end.
Yeah.
You brought up the word plethora, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. Was it the very first time you heard the word plethora from the Three Amigos?
Yeah. Epe, do you even know what the plethora is?
No, unfortunately not. I just like to throw big words around so I seem smart.
Troy knows what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
All right, I love it. Well,
all right. Well,
everybody. That's a wrap.
thank you.
You rocked it.
Later.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Tristan. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Bye.
See you guys.